Well, I would like to welcome you all to our webinar that we have here. We're kind of excited to have Shane Trotter from SelectTech here. I'm Sherry Gunsviller. It's nice to see you all. Thanks for joining in with us. I realize that especially with COVID and Christmas and everything else going on, you guys are, it's hard pressed to have any type of time available to be around and have just time to spend on a webinar. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. Again, I'd like to introduce Shane Trotter. He's from Select Technologies here in Michigan, down in the Rockford area. And Shane, welcome. Thanks for joining with us to be able to do this interview.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. So let me just start out. Shane, can you tell me just what position do you play at, work at Select Technologies?
Select Technologies. I've been with Select since 2004, mainly as their IT support. As a systems integrator, you run into doing a lot of the other stuff too. So I've done some PLC programming, some HMI programming, and then obviously was on the team that implemented SolidWorks Electrical. So I always like to joke, jack of all trades, master of none.
It can be very dangerous in a lot of them.
Right, exactly.
All right. So can you give me a little bit of a better idea? What happened at SelectTech that all of a sudden, what was happening before that you guys all of a sudden decided one day we need a change?
It was time to move to something else. Yeah, I don't know if there's one particular instance, but as time goes on, you just know that there's something better out there to do the job that you're trying to get done, which is for us draw electrical schematics. So that's a big portion of our business. We have a UL 508 shop, so we have 3 CAD guys that do that full time, and just there's a lot of typos, things drawn in a certain way one time, and then drawn in a particular way the next time. Not out of anybody trying to do anything different. It's just the nature of one guy working on one project, then another guy working on a different project. So you're in a team environment, but not really a team-based software.
Okay. So you mentioned standards. Did you guys implement a best practice? Did you guys create a sheet that you use to say, here's what our standards are going to be? How did you handle all of that?
Yeah, so we basically had a set of drawings, and usually this was a project that was similar in the past or like hopefully close past that we've done. Mm-hmm. And then that would be the template or the basis for the next project. So you'd have to try to okay, where did we do something similar? Did we do it in the newer style that we wanted? And then try to go find that project and then tailor that to fit the current project's needs.
Okay.
And Select Technologies does a lot of, so systems integrators, so does a lot of custom-based projects. So rarely do we get projects that are the same. One day we may be working on material handling. The next day we might be working on HVAC type of projects. So we're not a machine builder where you would have one standard set of schematics, maybe across the line of equipment. We would be drawing for custom built solutions. So that was a huge challenge.
Sure. All right. So what about other things like, let's start out with, what did you have before and what was life like and how did it change?
Sure. So before that, the company was using AutoCAD Lite. And as most people probably know, that's just the 2D version of AutoCAD. And when you're laying down a wire, It's just the line. There's no smarts behind that. Now, what's interesting about that is you can do anything that you want, right, to make the drawing look what you want, how you want to.
Yeah.
But when the project's complete, all that data isn't obtainable. It's static on the drawing. So you don't really get much value after that.
Sure.
And that's where some of the SOLIDWORKS electrical stuff is different.
So did you use a lot of other third-party softwares to try and capture all that extra data at this point, like Excel or Notepad or Microsoft Word or writing on a pad of paper?
Some of it, but a lot of it was double entry type stuff. So you might lay a lot of, when you're doing a project, you're putting material down, but then when it was time to move it to our, execution system for actually building the panels, that material would have to be re-entered.
Sure.
So somebody would be looking at the drawing set and then hand typing that stuff back in, once they've have things completed enough where they think that can happen.
Gotcha. So did you have a lot of double ordering, missed ordering of parts?
I wouldn't say double ordering, missed sometimes, just from the day-to-day grind type of stuff. More of, just having to put it in two spots, right? So even downstream to labeling, which we did later, somebody would have to walk this set of prints out to labeling and then go line by line and say, okay, I need these wire numbers. I need this set of term labels. I need this set of backplate labels, and all that information needs to be retyped in again to whatever labeling solution you're using. And then that lends itself to more human error.
Yeah, that can be.
So.
Yeah, human errors. We definitely have issues with that, right?
Yeah.
Fat fingers.
Exactly. Especially when you're doing, 1,000 rows of something in some Excel spreadsheet. Sure.
So how did you choose I guess the first question I've got, which I find a lot of different aspects that people have looked at. When you finally did decide to go with SOLIDWORKS Electrical, what would be some of those key points that someone would need to know in order to do a successful implementation? What are those key factors that, now that you are hindsight, you can always say, yeah, it's hindsight, it's 2020 now. So you can actually see, yeah, I should have thought about this. I should have thought about that. What are some of those key points that people should look at when they are getting ready to possibly pull that trigger for a purchase? Is it buy-in by the team? What is it? What are those points?
Yeah, that's a good one. So we had, I wanted full buy-in. I just happened to be kind of, I guess, quasi leading the team just from the technical perspective.
Sure.
I wasn't going to be drawing in it every day, like the CAD specialists were going to be doing. So I wanted to make sure that this was going to fit them. And after we went to the training classes first, and once we kind of knew that this was where we were going, it's like, okay, is this what you guys want? We know we're going to get the day-to-day life of drawing to be better. So line numbering and wire numbers and term, setting that stuff down on the drawings, the title blocks, all those things. We knew we wanted to improve that, make it centralized and quicker. So once we had kind of buy-in from that, we could move forward together.
Okay. Makes
I
sense.
think that's a key thing. And obviously management, you got to get them to buy in too, because they're buying the software.
Right. But buy-in of the users is a make.
I think, that's fundamental. Right. That's fundamental because, especially if it's the people that are using it, if they think that it's harder or going to make their daily life more difficult, they're not going to buy in. Fortunately, we kind of knew, right, that this is what we're trying to do, is make things better, right? So it's easier to get buy-in when you say these things are going to be easier once we do this. It may be hard to get there. It may take time.
Sure.
but these things will be easier.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. That
Yeah, and
definitely makes
it's
sense.
I've said before, it's kind of a journey, not like we're all used to like projects and deadlines and that sort of repetitive type work. But
Sure.
it takes time. You have to implement over months.
Right. So let me ask you about that implementing over months. You probably had a time frame in mind when you bought the software, that you had an end goal that you're saying, okay, we should be able to get to this point by a certain amount of time. What kind of time frame did you look at, and what kind of time did it actually end up being?
Yeah, so I think we initially thought like 3 to 6 months before we were really kind of running. The great thing about doing this project was that we could do it in parallel with what we were already doing.
Okay.
So there wasn't like a specific, we got to hit this deadline because this is switching over day.
Right.
We sat down, worked it from any other project angle, just had set up weekly meetings, and then, okay, here's what we want to try to get accomplished this week. If you don't get it accomplished because you're working on your other daily stuff that has to go out the door, okay, fine. Let's see if we can jump in, help, or somebody else take on that task. But each week we kind of wrote down, okay, how do we figure out this, and what do we do for that, and all the little nuances that you don't see until you're actually ready to start laying down lines.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
But yeah, it took at least it's 3 months before you're like seeing any, I'd say, gains. 6 months before you're probably running.
So what kind of gains did you see?
Running, I'm saying, moving quick, using the software, and then there comes a point where it's this is where I kind of knew we were in the clear. The CAD guys were grumbling about having to draw in the old software. So when we hit that milestone, so it's, oh man, we got to open, because occasionally you still have to open up legacy drawings off of some old project, make modifications, and then resubmit that. So
sure.
When it's, oh man, I don't want to draw on this because it's going to take me all week. That's kind of when when you know that you're starting to win.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what kind of gains did you see, either on the SelectTech side, or maybe it was on the customer side? Did they see, as far as what type of gains when you did go to the electrical software, as far as not only was it that the guys no longer wanted to work in the old stuff, but were there other aspects that you weren't expecting that all of a sudden you started seeing possibilities that weren't there before? Maybe it was just time.
Yeah, I think it just, once we were getting speed and accuracy once we got going, which you and I know you don't usually get both.
Right.
It's a benefit. You can be faster, right, most of the time if you want to, but you're sacrificing your quality or some other feature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this you got kind of both once you got going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So deliverables and whatnot to customers were faster, or were you just able to take on more
I guess
work?
I would say that once you start moving, it frees up either more time to engineer from that particular guy that's drawing, so more time to look up information, see if it's correct, maybe check some other stuff, instead of just trying to get through the day-to-day mundane stuff like checking your to's and froms.
Sure.
Or making sure your page numbers are right. All this stuff is automatic now, right?
Right.
In legacy drawings, that kind of stuff is a headache, right? So you're spending time doing that, and that's taken away from your engineering time.
Sure. So if I were to ask you, what are the key features in electrical that may have contributed to your success? Were there specific areas?
Yeah, just continued on the being able to not worry about the simple items, line numbers on a page, page numbers, title blocks, and then, you know, all the information that comes along with an actual piece of material. Before, say you got a PowerFlex 70 drive, you're actually putting that part number on the drawing as a piece of text. Lends itself to typos or the wrong one. And, you know, a typo in a part number like that could mean the difference between a drive that's 480 and a drive that's 240.
Yeah, probably also affecting the long lead items. I would assume that, you know,
Right.
obviously a wrong part number is one thing, but at least you're able to possibly now identify those longer lead items and get those purchased and know that you've got the right part number, because you can spend the time doing that to add that into the software. Would that be?
That is 100% accurate. Yes.
Gotcha.
So yeah, all those things that you shouldn't be thinking about, right? That you want to be there, but just aren't when you're doing static type drawings.
Gotcha. Well, let me open it up to the floor. Is there if anyone has any questions for Shane, please use the question and answer tab that's at the bottom of your Zoom there to ask some questions to Shane. You might not want to hear me talk the whole time, but maybe you've got a question particular that you would like to ask Shane. So please feel free to post those questions in the question and answer section there. In the meantime, I will just go ahead and just continue. Shane and I have talked many, many times. So Shane, let me ask you, how is the PLC management here in the software? Was that a benefit? How did that work all out?
So we are very particular about how we draw our PLC pages. So the actual lines and wires coming into them, we wanted to show them in a particular way. So that was a piece that we just didn't bite off. We decided that we were just going to draw it a certain way and not use the PLC manager inside of the program. But now we're at a level of using the software where we feel comfortable. We're going to start swinging back to that portion and then probably drive our IO, we call it an IO list.
Okay.
Out of SolidWorks. So we're still doing that process manually, but that's something that we're going to start looking at doing automatically.
And that's, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and
that's something that's you go.
I was going to say, well, that's just one area that GoEngineer can help, you know, because of the mentoring that we do with a lot of our different customers. And so that's one aspect that you can have once you have purchased the software. There is that capability of working with specialists that know that software inside and out. And we can help you develop things. We can help just with mentoring and training. And so that is one area that, yeah, if you don't want to worry about that, you can still draw the old way that you were used to, and you can tackle that feature at a later time. It's not like you have to, it's not an all or none type scenario, which is what you guys have done, which is perfect because, of course, now that you understand the software real well, now it's a matter of, okay, let's now make those finite granular changes to do exactly what we want in this area.
Yeah. And we should swing back to the initial part too, where you came on site multiple times for us and helped us with that heavy lifting. So just going back to GoEngineering capabilities, that was, and I put that in some of my notes too, that I sent over for the case study, is that early on, guidance on what to expect and how to do certain things and what the software is going to do with them. Mm-hmm. We didn't know those things, but you did.
Right.
So when we were, okay, how are we going to get all of our symbols in there? And we always draw our line numbers, our, the nomenclature for our line numbers is XYZ, ABC, 1, 2, 3. We don't know how to make the software do that, but you did that for us. So those kind of things right at the beginning were knocked out. And then that allowed us to focus on the select technology specific problems that needed to be solved.
Okay, awesome. Well, we've got some questions rolling in here, so let me just start off. Mike asked, did you take the training before or after you bought the software? And if taken before, did that help with the buy-in?
Yeah, so we were, I guess, 1 foot already in the water with the software, and I just knew that we weren't going to not do the training. So we went, we were kind of, I was getting ready to install it, and the training was either the same day or the same week or the next week. It just happened to be timed that way.
Gotcha.
And yes, it helped with the buy-in. Because,
okay.
You came to our place, Sherry, and gave us the demo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, we put it up on the board and went through the whole thing, right? But until you kind of sit down and drive it for yourself, and that's the training is forcing you to do that.
Right. Most definitely. Okay.
And those were back in the days when they had, in-class training. Now you can get Sherry from the comfort of your own home, right, to train you.
Right, yeah. You can kick back on your couch or at your dining room table, and I will sit here and train you. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
All right. Well, here's another question. Matt said, when you were implementing SOLIDWORKS Electrical, did you find that there were limitations that held you back compared to the freedom of AutoCAD or a similar software?
Yes. I'm trying to phrase it well. Like, so you always have this this custom feeling, right? When you can do anything you want with the other software.
Right.
But what you're giving up is all of that automation. Right. So we're really particular about our drawings. We kind of pride ourselves on how good they look. They're legible. The symbols are really detailed. So when going back to the drive example, our PowerFlex drive, it looks like the front of a PowerFlex drive on the drawing. That's our symbol. So some of that was more difficult, and I think it's because of how we wanted the drawings to look. But if you start to just think about what you're gaining by stepping away. Some of the little things, the freedom, I guess is the word he was using.
Yeah.
They're just not worth it. And you find either a small workaround for it or do it slightly different that doesn't affect the engineering outcome.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. All right. I've got another one here. Dennis says, or is asking, if Select Technologies were to do it again, what would you change in how you approach the project? The implementation, the purchase?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Putting you on the
yeah,
spot.
I don't know if we. Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know, and I don't want to say we did it pretty good, so we don't need to change anything. I mean, some of the stuff I went over in the stuff I sent you guys originally, it was, buy-in from management and explaining to management that this is going to be a process. It's going to take time. And that, or even your field guys, that the guys that are actually reading the prints, we had those kind of things pop up where it's like, hey, what's going on here? This doesn't look right. Yep, we're working on it. We're working through it. This is a new process for us. We're doing that. So maybe it was the better communication on those types of things. Mm-hmm. Even though it's a small company and everybody knew we were in the middle of an implementation, sometimes you have to reinforce those things, right?
I would say you still have to reinforce those things. So, and that brings me right into that segue there as far as projects. So when you first started implementing this software, how did you do it? Did you take an old project? Did you start with a new project? What did you do?
So we picked a pilot project, and this is another one of these key things to do, I think. I believe we had a like kind of a test project that was already done in AutoCAD, and we kind of drew that along the side, but was like unofficial. But then to see, okay, what are we going to run into if we were to redraw this project that's already been completed? It's already been pushed through the shop. It might be sitting on a test dock getting ready to be tested or something.
Sure.
Then, you know, most of those bugs are worked out, and that went down. And, you know, if we had a problem, we discussed it in our meetings. But then the first project that you pick, we grabbed something super small that we knew we were going to be able to like handle in a couple days, you know, start to finish all the way through to see like what's going to crop up later, right? So for the process isn't done after you submit for fabrication. So we wanted to make sure like, hey, is there anything weird we're not thinking about downstream? But it was just a smaller project, so handleable.
Okay. So I got another question that has just popped up here from Matt. He's asking, how long did it take your CAD designers to exceed their drawing speed when compared to AutoCAD?
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't know like an exact number. I would just refer back to the grumbling at some point. I'd say it was at least a month, 2 months of them really getting used to opening that thing up every day and drawing in it. And then as soon as you start to see I can do this to gain this, or I should do this way to avoid these things. Every day is faster and faster, right? It's like exponential.
Right. And that's truly,
but
go ahead.
It's hard to put a number on it, but yeah, I mean, I would say like, I knew we were starting to win when they were whining about drawing in AutoCAD.
So, and that's truly one of the things to keep in mind is that the more you use the software, the faster you're going to get. If you only touch it once a week, it's going to take longer to actually get comfortable with those mouse clicks or where they're located. And I think that's key of any new software, not just the SOLIDWORKS Electrical. You know, if you don't spend the time in the software to get acclimated, how could you ever expect to actually be really fluid in it?
Right. Yeah, and thankfully our guys are daily guys, right? So I'm sure there's some shops out there or integrators that, they might be the one-man show, right? So siloed, where they do the drawings. They're also the programmer. They're also the startup guy. I think that helped that we may be unique in this, or we may not be, I'm not sure, that our CAD guys are full-time CAD guys.
Gotcha. Okay, so I've got a question here, and it might be easier for me to answer this one, but it says, this one's from Ben, and it says, how heavy does information need to be preloaded into SOLIDWORKS parts or assemblies for the electrical to be proficient? Can electrical design work independently from mechanical design while it takes shape? And truly what we're talking about here is the fact that we've got two packages, one a schematic package and another one which is the electrical 3D. You must have the schematic package, which is what Shane's using, to build all of your 2D prints with all of the wiring that goes to and from it. You could then take on a 3D electrical package, which is going to sit on top of SOLIDWORKS, and it's going to merge the SOLIDWORKS with the schematic. So SOLIDWORKS schematic can work independently all by itself. And then when you're ready to take it into that 3D environment, you possibly buy a second license, which is then going to work in conjunction with your schematic software. And so those types of parts, those 3D models that you could possibly be using, are things that you can then add those connection points to. So it's not that it's different parts, it is the same parts. You just add a couple of features to those parts. And then, yes, because they are separate licenses, you can still be working in the same project at the same time with one person in the schematic and one person in the 3D. Excuse me. Ben, if you'd like to learn more about that, we can definitely have a further conversation about that. Let me move on, though. I've got another question here. Maybe this was covered already and I missed it. How many projects have you done to date? Did you track in between original design processes versus electrical project time? Maybe, you know, did you actually go to that finite granular and look at, okay, it took this much time to do this and it took, you know, or was it just a matter of, okay, we've made that decision and this is where we're going?
Well, yeah, I mean, I at one point I had added up, I don't have that in front of me. I added up how many projects we had done over the last, I looked back 5 years. Then I projected forward, and then I had the guys kind of fill out like, okay, how much time do you think you're saving daily on this? Give me a conservative number, not like a overblown number.
Sure.
And we added, and then we went down to, you know, any report we were generating that now is automatic. How much time does that save you? And then we went out to labeling. How much time are we saving instead of typing in labels and all that stuff? And I added all that up, and I got close to you know, 2,100 hours per year that we were saving in that. Now, is that the same for everybody? Probably not. It's hard to say. Where you take the software is kind of up to you.
Sure, sure. Okay, and I got one last question here, and I'm just going to leave. We're going to finish off with this question here. Does a customer expect to see DWG files? And if so, is it easily exportable?
I'll let you answer that.
Yes, it is a one-button push to export DWG files. So yes, you can provide those files, and you can have different size drawings and still push them all onto one sheet format size. And it's truly completely selectable. That's just one of the many ways that you can output your deliverables. You can do DWGs, you can do PDFs, you can do Excel spreadsheets, and it's just a one-button push. So, I mean, that part of it is like almost a no-brainer type thing.
Yeah, we did switch when we finally started drawing everything in SolidWorks. We switched to PDF, where we used to, you know, give out a DWG or DWF. We just decided that PDF was better, a little bit more version control, right? And you know, they print very nice. The end customer who may not be like tech savvy or have AutoCAD installed is still able to see them.
Right.
Sets up a lot nicer.
Yeah, that as well as the fact that they're kind of secure. You know, you're not going to be able to just change them on the fly like you would with a DWG or a DXF if you provide that format. So that makes sense. Well, Shane, thank you so much for your time today. I greatly appreciate it. I'm sure the people here that are attending also appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen here for a moment, because what I want to share is the fact that Select Technologies does have a case study that you can see. It's just a matter of it will give you results of what that Select Technologies went through. And if you are wanting further information, please just go ahead and email our marketing team if you want a link to that case study. In fact, most of the people that are attending, you will hear from our marketing team. But for those that are joining us afterwards, it's just a matter of an email. And if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to email me here at Sherry Gunsviller at GoEngineer.com. And I can either answer your question directly, or I can put you in contact with Shane. All right. I greatly appreciate your time, Shane. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day.
See you guys. Thanks, Sherry.
Bye now.